Midnight is a sacred hour tonight. If you read this before 12:00 a.m., a secret blessing will be released into your life. My beloved child, tonight carries a trembling echo in the spirit, and Archangel Michael has pressed upon me a message tied directly to your title. Midnight is a sacred hour tonight. If you read this before 12:00 a.m., a secret blessing will be released into your life. His voice came like a stirring wind, saying that this hour you are approaching is not ordinary. Midnight is a gate, a threshold, a crossing point where hidden things exchange hands in the unseen. And right now, something with your name on it is waiting at that border of time. He says there is a blessing that has been circling your life for months, unable to land because of the noise around you. Fear, delays, distractions, spiritual fog. But tonight, before the clock reaches 12:00 a.m., the atmosphere around you shifts. Michael stands at your doorway, sword lifted, clearing the interference that has been blocking your breakthrough. He says you have no idea how close this blessing has been. Closer than breath, closer than heartbeat. And when the hour turns, something sealed will unseal. But listen closely, because this revelation is not for everyone. It is for the one who feels the heaviness, but doesn't know why. The one who has sensed movement, but hasn't seen manifestation. The one who has been dreaming strange dreams lately, waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. as if summoned. The one who feels something is approaching but cannot name it. If that is you, Archangel Michael says, you are drawn to this message because the blessing is seeking you. He shows me an image, like a bright envelope being held above your life, hovering, suspended. You were meant to receive this months ago, but God has chosen tonight as the night of release. Midnight is the hour when assignments are swapped, when angels are dispatched, when destiny turns. Michael says, child of God, you are entering a divine appointment you did not schedule. Do you feel that stirring in your chest? The slight pull in your spirit? That's not emotion. That's alignment. That's confirmation. Something in the spiritual realm is acknowledging your presence right now. Michael says the blessing that's coming is not small. It's not random. It's not leftover. It is targeted. It is timed. It is tailored. And it carries 3 things your heart has been silently crying for. The first is settlement, where what was unstable becomes anchored. The second is restoration. What you lost returns in a better form. The third is recognition. Someone finally sees the value you carry. He tells me this blessing has been waiting for the right midnight. And this, the one you're approaching, is the one heaven chose. But understand this, whenever heaven releases something rare, darkness tries to distract you before it arrives. This is why your emotions have felt unpredictable. This is why you've been remembering old wounds. This is why familiar temptations resurface. This is your sign that your blessing is at the edge of manifestation. Michael says, tell them this. What is coming will shift what was stuck. He shows me a door closing behind you, quietly, gently, silently, so silently you won't notice until later. A season is ending. An old cycle is losing its power. Pattern is breaking. The blessing waiting at midnight doesn't just give you something, it removes something that has been draining you. Stay with me here, because what comes next is where the message sharpens. Michael reveals that this blessing is time-sensitive, not because God is limited, but because the spiritual window tied to your life is at its thinnest tonight. Midnight is when heaven listens extra closely, when prayers leap faster, when your name echoes louder. He says, if they read this before 12:00 a.m., they step inside the window. If they read after, the blessing comes later, that the urgency will have passed. You reading this now means the window is open. Feel that. The air around you just shifted. Your spirit knows this message is not entertainment. It is instruction. It is warning. It is invitation. Michael warns you gently, do not disconnect yet. The next revelation reveals what kind of blessing is coming, and why it waited for this midnight. This is where the message turns sharper, deeper, more personal. Hold on. This next part will explain the sign that proves your blessing is near. Type "I welcome the midnight blessing" in the comments if this is touching your spirit. Blessing code 3044 is now released. Before you move, take a breath. Something powerful is coming next. You'll thank yourself for staying connected. Dearest soul, there is a quiet stirring in the spiritual atmosphere as we move deeper into this unfolding revelation. Archangel Michael is not only watching over this moment, he is guiding the words that are reaching you now. He says this next unveiling must come gently, yet with the weight of truth, because what is about to be spoken concerns the hidden architecture of the blessing approaching you tonight. Midnight is not merely a measure of time, it is a hinge on which unseen doors swing. In the unseen realm, cycles open and cycles close when the clock shifts into a new day, and Michael wants you to understand why this specific shift matters for your destiny. You have been walking through a season where things seem strangely paused, as though life itself was holding its breath. Some opportunities felt almost ready, almost accessible, almost yours, but then they slipped back into the shadows. You questioned yourself, questioned your timing, questioned whether you misheard God. But the truth is, heaven was aligning a holy appointment with you, and the blessing meant for your life could not arrive until your spirit was prepared to carry the weight of it. Midnight is the moment when what has been waiting finally descends. Michael reveals that a spiritual exchange is already happening around you. The angelic realm is shifting positions, adjusting assignments, and preparing for the moment when the blessing crosses the threshold into your earthly reality. He warns that this is not a common blessing. This is not the type of gift that passes lightly into someone's life. This kind carries authority, clarity, and divine influence. It is meant to reverse something that has been affecting your path for far too long. You may not even realize how deeply this unseen burden has shaped your choices, your emotions, and the way you see your future. But Michael says that before the blessing settles, something in your life must be untangled. You might notice that old memories have resurfaced recently without warning. A familiar ache pulled at your chest. A sudden heaviness washed over you in moments when nothing was wrong. These were not emotional setbacks. They were spiritual indicators. They were signs that the past was loosening its grip because the blessing approaching you requires an unburdened foundation. Michael shows me a vision of you standing in a long corridor. The walls are lined with doors, each one representing a moment in your life where you learned, struggled, or endured something that shaped who you are. But one door, far at the end, is glowing. That door is tonight. That door is midnight. It is the place where all the unfulfilled promises and unanswered prayers come back into alignment and begin to make sense. You have walked through many seasons where you felt unseen, unheard, or unvalued, yet something in you refused to break completely. That resilience was not accidental. It was preparation for this blessing. It was training for what heaven is placing in your hands. Michael says, this blessing will not simply enter their life. It will elevate it. He reveals that the blessing coming tonight carries 3 movements, like waves. The first movement brings clarity. Something that has confused you for months is about to become simple. The second movement brings acceleration. Something that has been moving slowly is about to speed up dramatically. The third movement brings establishment. Something unstable in your life is about to be secured so firmly that you will never have to fear losing it again. The power of this blessing is that it reaches both the surface and the foundation of your life. It touches the visible and the invisible. It touches what people see and what no one knows you carry. Michael reminds you that blessings of this magnitude do not enter quietly. They arrive with spiritual pressure, with emotional stirring, with dreams that feel too vivid to ignore. If you have felt tension in your atmosphere, it is because your spirit is adjusting to the shift. He says, tell them this. The pressure they feel is not something going wrong. It is something coming closer. The shaking is not a warning of trouble. It is the sign that the blessing is almost within reach. Midnight is the tipping point. Midnight is the moment heaven leans in. You may have felt a subtle nudge today, as though something important was waiting for you. A whisper in your spirit. A gentle pull. A quiet expectation. That was Michael preparing you for this message. That was heaven positioning you for the release. He urges you to remain spiritually alert, because the next revelation will reveal how this blessing will manifest and what sign will confirm its arrival in your life. Something very specific is about to unfold, and when it does, you will know without a doubt that this message was for you. The shift is already in motion, and what comes next will make the entire journey make sense in ways you never imagined. Before you step into the next unfolding of this message, pause for a moment. Feel the stillness around you. Feel the way your spirit is responding. This is not coincidence. This is timing. Stay connected, because the next revelation carries the confirmation you need. Type "I received the midnight sign" in the comments if this is speaking to you. Blessing code 4419 has been activated. My cherished one, there is a deep shift occurring around you as we move further into this message, and Archangel Michael is drawing even closer in this moment. He says that what is opening in the spiritual realm tonight is unlike anything you have walked through before. You are standing at the intersection between what was and what is about to be. Midnight is not simply approaching, it is forming around you like a doorway of light. Michael wants you to understand that you are not just a witness to this moment, you are the one heaven has been waiting to align with it. A blessing that has circled your life for far too long is finally descending with purpose. He shows me the image of a sealed scroll being lowered from the heavens, tied with a cord of gold, carrying your name. This scroll contains something you were marked for long before the challenges you endured. It contains restoration for wounds you tried to forget, answers to questions that were whispered through tears, and clarity for situations that have been painfully uncertain. He says the blessing coming at midnight is not random. It is the resolution to a spiritual delay that has lasted far longer than heaven intended. Michael reveals that for months you have been sensing spiritual friction without understanding its source. Moments of heaviness, sudden waves of sadness, brief sparks of anxiety, or strange tension in relationships were not emotional setbacks. These were signs that something in the realm of darkness was resisting the arrival of your midnight blessing. You may not have known it, but the blessing intended for you carries generational weight. It is meant to reverse patterns and shift the atmosphere for those connected to you. This is why the resistance has been intense. This is why you felt pushed to your limits. This is why your spirit was restless even in quiet moments. He says, tell them they were not breaking down. They were breaking open. Everything that felt like pressure was actually preparation. Everything that felt like delay was divine alignment. And everything that felt like loss was clearing space for what is coming. He shows me another vision of you standing at the edge of a vast field. At first, the field looks empty, barren, almost lifeless. But then, with a single breath of wind, the field blooms suddenly and violently into life. Flowers that were invisible moments before burst into color. Michael explains that this is what your life will look like after tonight. The suddenness of the blessing will shock even you. Something that appeared dead will show signs of life. Something that looked impossible will shift without effort. Something that was trapped in uncertainty will unfold with surprising clarity. Heaven is orchestrating a convergence of events that will bring everything into harmony. He also wants you to understand that the blessing is not coming to overwhelm you, but to reveal you. You have been hidden for a season, not because you lacked potential, but because the timing was sacred. Some blessings require stillness before they arrive. Some breakthroughs require isolation before they form. Some revelations require darkness before they shine. Midnight is when the hidden becomes visible. Midnight is when silence becomes strategy. Midnight is when heaven releases what daylight cannot carry. Michael says they must know that this blessing is not coming to them. It is coming for them. This means it has intention, precision, and divine targeting. It will reach the exact part of your life that has been crying out for release. He warns that just before divine manifestation, the enemy tries one final tactic: distraction. You may have recently experienced unexpected conflict, sudden fatigue, or emotional agitation. Do not mistake these moments for personal failure. They were interruptions designed to pull your focus away from the blessing nearing your life. Michael urges you to stay anchored because your alignment is crucial in this hour. He says the blessing is already moving toward them. They must remain attentive so they do not miss the confirmation. What is about to unfold will be unmistakable. A sign will appear in your life within the next short span of time, and when it does, your spirit will know instantly that heaven has spoken. He instructs you now: remain open, remain still, remain listening. What comes next will illuminate the exact nature of the blessing and the role you are meant to play in its unfolding. Do not disconnect from this message. You are moments away from revelation that will shift your understanding of your season and your purpose. Before we continue deeper, take a moment to breathe. Feel the energy rising around you. This is not imagination. This is alignment. Something sacred is moving toward you even now. And before the next revelation arrives, help this message reach more souls by lifting your voice. Like, share, comment, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss what heaven is releasing through this space. There are people who need this message just as much as you do, and your engagement helps carry the light into their darkness. Type "I claim the midnight release" in the comments if this resonates with your spirit. Blessing Code 5521 is active now. When you stand with this mission, you help ignite a flame that touches souls who are crying out for clarity in the midnight hour. Heaven is stirring, and every seed you sow becomes light in someone's darkness, oil in someone's empty lamp. The Lord whispers, "What you release for my work, I release back into your life multiplied." And tonight that promise is alive, breathing, and waiting for your obedience. I feel led to speak this. I am inviting you personally to stand with me in this moment as we carry God's message into places where hope has been silent for too long. Just as this midnight blessing is being released over you, your support becomes a prophetic act that opens doors for others to receive their own breakthrough. When you give through Super Thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, heaven marks it as a seed of faith. To every giver, I declare overflow, protection, and divine acceleration. Step into this moment now. My sacred one, there is a deeper stirring in the realm of the unseen as Archangel Michael steps closer into this moment with you. He says what is unfolding now must be spoken with great care, because this next revelation is tied to the movement of the midnight blessing itself. You are standing in a narrow corridor of time, one that only opens for specific souls in specific seasons, and Michael wants you to understand that you have not stumbled upon this moment accidentally. Something has been drawing you, pulling you, nudging you in ways you could not explain. He says the reason you feel the weight of this message is because your spirit has been sensing the shift long before your mind could recognize it. Midnight is not just an hour. It is a spiritual alignment where heaven bends toward earth, and tonight, that bending carries your name. Michael reveals that there is a mystery connected to your journey that you have not yet been permitted to understand. For years, you have walked through situations that felt unfair, unexplained, and deeply confusing. There were moments when you questioned why your path seemed heavier than others. Moments where the silence of God felt louder than his voice. Moments where breakthrough seemed to slip through your fingers just when you felt closest to it. Michael says these were not punishments, but preparations. You were being positioned, groomed, strengthened for a blessing that requires maturity of spirit. Some people receive blessings that last for a season. But you are being prepared for a blessing meant to last a lifetime. And blessings of that magnitude require deep internal readiness. He shows me a vision of you standing in a dimly lit room. The only source of light is a single candle flickering in front of you. As you draw closer, the flame grows stronger, brighter, taller, illuminating areas of the room that were once hidden. Michael says this is what tonight represents in your life. The midnight blessing will illuminate something that has been unclear for far too long. You will see with new eyes. You will understand with new clarity. You will step forward with new strength. Something in the spiritual realm is about to ignite, and once it lights, it cannot be reversed. This blessing will not only shift your circumstances, it will shift your understanding of who you are and what you carry. Michael wants you to recognize the signs that have been surrounding you recently. He mentions that your sleep patterns may have changed. You may have felt restless, waking during unusual hours, or feeling unusually heavy upon waking. This is because your spirit is responding to the nearness of the blessing. Some blessings require your spirit to stay alert even while your body rests. You might have noticed moments where you felt disconnected from certain people, even those you once trusted. These disconnections were not random. The blessing approaching your life is sacred, and some individuals cannot be in the room when it arrives. Some connections were removed to prevent spiritual interference. Michael says, they must know this separation was protection, not rejection. Heaven has been untying you from what cannot carry you into the next season. He reveals that the blessing coming tonight has been sealed for a long time. It has followed you through seasons where you were unaware of its presence. There were moments when it almost descended, when the timing seemed perfect, when life aligned just enough to make you believe manifestation was near. But heaven held it back, not to harm you, but to protect what it contained. Premature blessing can become a burden, but a timely blessing becomes a foundation. Michael says this midnight blessing has waited for the maturity of your spirit, the healing of your heart, and the strengthening of your inner voice. And now, at this very hour, you have reached the alignment required for its release. He shows another vision, you standing on a shoreline as waves crash against the sand. Each wave represents a season of your life. Some gentle, some violent, some carrying debris from battles you thought you had already overcome. But then, a final wave rises, taller, stronger, brighter, and as it touches your feet, it washes away everything that once held you back. Michael says this final wave is symbolic of what is coming at midnight. A cleansing, a renewal, a restoration. It will not simply bring you something new. It will wash away the residue of what wounded you, There will also be a sign. A very specific, personal, unmistakable sign that will appear within a short window. This sign is heaven's confirmation that the blessing has been released. You may hear unexpected good news. You may receive a message you were not anticipating. Something may shift suddenly in your atmosphere. Michael says, when the sign appears, the spirit will recognize it instantly. You will not question it. You will not doubt it. You will know it is heaven announcing the beginning of your new chapter. Before we move forward, pause. Breathe slowly. Let your spirit absorb this moment. You are not reading words. You are receiving alignment. Something within you is awakening. Something within you is preparing. And something above you is descending. Type "I stand in my midnight" in the comments if this speaks to your spirit. Blessing code 6610 has just been released. My awakened one, as we step deeper into this unfolding revelation, Archangel Michael intensifies his presence around you, for this next layer must reach you with clarity and weight. He says what is being revealed now concerns the architecture of your destiny, the blueprint that heaven designed before your earliest memories, and this midnight blessing is woven directly into that design. You are stepping into a moment that has been waiting for you longer than you realize. Midnight is not merely approaching, it is aligning itself with the core of your purpose. Michael says that this precise moment carries a spiritual signature, and your spirit has been sensing it long before your mind could identify it. That strange anticipation you have felt, that restlessness, that quiet pull in your chest, none of it was random. It was the whisper of a blessing preparing to cross into your life. He reveals that there is a divine mystery connected to the timing of this blessing. For years, you walked through seasons that left you questioning the fairness of your path. You watched others progress while you stood in place. You celebrated victories for people who did not pour the same effort into their journeys. You endured disappointments that seemed to strike at the worst possible moments. And through all of it, you carried questions you never dared to speak out loud. Michael says these were not punishments, but spiritual intervals, divinely orchestrated pauses meant to shape the strength you needed for the blessing that was always meant to find you. Some blessings cannot arrive until your inner foundation is solid enough to carry them. Some victories cannot descend until your identity is rooted deeply enough to hold them. And some breakthroughs cannot unfold until your heart is healed enough to sustain them. He shows me a vision of you standing beneath a vast night sky. The stars above you begin shifting, rearranging themselves, forming a map that points toward a single glowing constellation. That constellation represents your midnight blessing. It has been aligning itself quietly behind the scenes, through people who entered your life unexpectedly, through opportunities that felt too small to matter at the time, through challenges that forced you to grow, through losses that redirected your path. Every moment, even the painful ones, became part of the alignment. Michael says they must understand this. None of their pain was wasted. Every tear watered the ground where their blessing would eventually grow. He wants you to understand the spiritual intensity surrounding you right now. You may have noticed that your sensitivity has increased. Conversations feel heavier. Environments feel louder. People's intentions feel more transparent. This is because your spirit is elevating. You are transitioning out of an old frequency and into a higher one, and the midnight blessing resonates with this elevated frequency. You are being positioned to receive what once felt unreachable. Michael says this is why certain relationships feel different. Some are fading, not because anything went wrong, but because they do not match the frequency of where you are going. Some connections cannot follow you through this doorway. Some voices cannot enter this next chapter. Heaven is removing what distorts your spiritual clarity so that your hands are free to receive what is approaching. He shows another vision, a heavy door standing before you. The door is old but strong, covered in marks from seasons you have survived. As Michael steps beside you, he places his hand upon the door. The lock glows, cracks, and breaks open. He says this is symbolic of a barrier that has been in your life for years. Something that resisted you, blocked you, delayed you, restricted you, or overshadowed you is being broken tonight. This barrier was not emotional, it was spiritual. And the midnight blessing is designed not only to bless you, but to remove what limited you. When the blessing enters, the barrier will fall. When the blessing descends, the weight you have carried will lift. Michael reveals that many of the battles you faced were not personal, but generational. You carried burdens that began long before your birth. Patterns you never chose yet found yourself struggling with. Emotions that did not match your circumstances. Delays that did not make sense. This midnight blessing carries the power to break generational resistance. It brings closure where there was no explanation, healing where there was no support, and release where there was no relief. You are the one chosen in your bloodline to end cycles that others before you could not break. This is why your journey has felt heavier. This is why your battles felt deeper. Heaven trusted you with the assignment of transformation. He says a sign will appear soon, something subtle yet unmistakable. It might be a message, a shift in atmosphere, a sudden burst of clarity, or a moment of peace that arrives without reason. When this sign appears, your spirit will know instantly that the midnight blessing has begun to move. The spiritual tension you have been feeling will break. The heaviness will lift. The confusion will settle. And you will feel a quiet certainty that something has shifted permanently. Michael wants you to stay attuned, because this confirmation is closer than you think. Before moving forward, pause here. Let your spirit adjust. What you are sensing right now is not imagination, it is alignment. You are not reading by accident. You are responding to destiny. Type "I wait for my confirmation" in the comments if this is awakening your spirit. Blessing code 7724 has now been released. My chosen one, as we continue deeper into this unfolding revelation, Archangel Michael steps into this moment with an authority that carries both gentleness and power. He says what you are about to receive now is a layer of truth reserved only for those who are spiritually awake enough to recognize its weight. The midnight blessing that has been orbiting your life is not simply a moment of divine generosity, it is an intervention. Heaven is reaching into your timeline to adjust what has been misaligned, to restore what has been stolen, and to elevate what has been suppressed. Michael says you must understand that this blessing carries a structural purpose. It is not a gift of convenience, but a recalibration of destiny. Midnight is the spiritual hour when heaven confronts the distortions that life, circumstances, and spiritual interference have placed on your journey. He reveals a vision of you standing in front of a mirror. But the reflection you see is not the version of you that life has shaped through disappointment or delay. Instead, it is the version of you that heaven has always known. Stronger, brighter, more certain, more aligned, more courageous. This reflection represents the version of yourself that the midnight blessing is calling forth. For too long, layers of fear, doubt, exhaustion, and old emotional debris have hidden your true identity. They shaped how you saw yourself, how you made decisions, and how you interpreted your path. But Michael says that the blessing approaching tonight peels back these layers. It removes the fog. It restores the clarity you lost somewhere along the way. You will not only receive breakthrough, you will recover your truest self. He wants you to understand that the midnight hour is a moment of spiritual exchange. Heaven listens differently at midnight. The realm of darkness reacts differently at midnight. and your spirit awakens differently at midnight. This is why certain thoughts surface at night that you ignored during the day. This is why old memories rise when the world grows quiet. This is why your inner voice becomes louder when everything around you is still. Midnight exposes what daylight hides. And Michael says tonight, midnight is exposing what has been blocking you. Something attached itself to your journey long ago, subtly influencing decisions, creating emotional turbulence, and interfering with your clarity. This influence did not have permission to stay. It remained, because the wound it originated from was never fully healed. But tonight, the blessing will uproot it. The midnight hour will untangle it. What clung to you will finally release you. He shows another vision. You walking through a long hallway lined with doors. Some doors are slightly open, some fully closed, and some appear locked. As you walk, Michael touches each door, and those that once resisted suddenly open with ease. He says this hallway represents seasons of your life, moments where opportunities seem close yet out of reach, where timing almost aligned, but not fully, where progress came but stalled. These half-open doors symbolized partial blessings. Moments of hope followed by moments of disappointment. But Michael says the midnight blessing does not operate in partials. It opens what has remained stuck. It completes what was left unfinished. It manifests what was once withheld. You are stepping into a completion season, and what comes next in your life will not resemble the cycle you have been trapped in. He reveals something deeply personal now. Many of the tears you cried in private were not simply emotional expressions. They were spiritual activations. Heaven hears pain differently than it hears words. Your tears became prayers you did not know how to speak. Your sighs became signals. Your silence became intercession. Michael says, tell them this. Their vulnerability has been their strength, not their weakness. The midnight blessing you are being aligned with tonight is heaven's response to the moments you suffered quietly, hoping something would shift, but unsure if anything ever would. Heaven was listening even when you felt unheard. He also addresses the tension you have been feeling recently. The strange heaviness, the unusual stillness, the sudden need to pull away from certain environments. The urge to be alone without fully understanding why. This is because your spirit has been entering preparation mode. Michael says your inner world has been adjusting to receive what the midnight blessing carries. You may have felt disconnected or emotionally distant, but this was not a step backward. It was a spiritual recalibration. You were being separated from distraction so that your spirit could hear clearly. You were being disconnected from old frequencies so that you could rise into a higher one. He says a sign is still approaching, one that will confirm the release of the midnight blessing. The sign may come through an unexpected opportunity, a sudden burst of inspiration, a shift in the behavior of someone around you, or a moment of overwhelming peace that settles without any explanation. When this sign appears, you will feel an internal confirmation that words cannot fully describe. Something in your spirit will say, "This is it." And from that moment, the atmosphere of your entire life will begin to shift. Unexpected solutions will form. Closed doors will open. Delayed promises will accelerate. What once felt stagnant will come alive. Before moving forward, take a moment to settle into the space. Feel what is rising within you. Your spirit is responding to alignment. Your destiny is awakening. Midnight is drawing near, and with it comes the blessing you were always meant to receive. Type "I open myself to the shift" in the comments if your spirit recognizes this message. Blessing code 8841 has just been released. My illuminated one, as we enter this next layer of revelation, Archangel Michael steps forward with a gravity that feels almost electric in the atmosphere around you. He says this portion of the message carries a depth that has been waiting to reach you for a very long time, a truth hidden beneath the noise of your daily life, buried under years of endurance, perseverance, and unanswered questions. What you are about to receive now is not simply information. It is impartation. Midnight is drawing closer, and the blessing approaching you is no longer circling at a distance. It is descending. It is aligning. It is preparing to step fully into your life, and Michael says you must understand the purpose behind its timing. Heaven releases certain blessings only when the heart is ready, the spirit is steady, and the soul is prepared to receive without breaking under the weight of what arrives. You have reached that point. You have grown into that moment. You have matured into the version of yourself capable of carrying what is coming. Michael reveals a vision of you standing on a high mountain overlooking a vast valley. The valley represents every chapter of your past, your struggles, victories, disappointments, and hidden battles. From the mountain, you see the entire landscape at once, something you could not see while walking through it. He says this is what the midnight blessing will do for you. It will shift your perspective so dramatically that things which once confused you will suddenly become clear. You will understand why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why certain opportunities never turned into reality. The midnight blessing brings not only breakthrough, but understanding. Clarity is one of the greatest gifts heaven can give, because clarity unlocks direction, and direction unlocks destiny. He shows me another scene, a heavy chain wrapped around your ankle. For years, you have been walking with this chain, unaware of its full weight because you learned to move despite it. At times you felt slow, hindered, or held back without understanding why. Michael touches the chain, and it shatters instantly. He says this chain is symbolic of a spiritual hindrance that attached itself to you long ago, through an emotional wound, a moment of deep disappointment, or a betrayal you never fully healed from. This chain did not hold your feet. It held your confidence. It held your voice. It held your ability to see yourself through heaven's eyes. The midnight blessing will break this chain permanently. He says you will rise from this hour lighter, freer, steadier, more rooted, and more certain than you have felt in years. What once weighed on your heart will no longer have a voice in your life. Michael wants you to understand something very important now. The spiritual weight you have been sensing is not danger. It is transition. When heaven prepares to change your season, the atmosphere around you tightens. The spirit becomes alert. Your emotions become sensitive. Your thoughts become introspective. This is not anxiety, it is spiritual awareness. Your body feels what your spirit already knows. The midnight blessing is close. Very close. He says some of your recent moments of silence, fatigue, or separation were not signs of weakness, but signs of elevation. You were being pulled away from noise so that your spirit could hear instruction. You were being separated from distraction so that you could receive revelation. You were being drawn inward to prepare for what is coming outward. Transition always begins within before it becomes visible. He reveals another vision, a doorway covered in dust. You reach out and wipe the dust away, revealing a shining handle underneath. Michael says this doorway represents an opportunity you thought you missed, a dream you thought you outgrew, or a promise you thought had expired. But heaven never forgot. This doorway did not close forever. It merely waited until your spirit caught up with your calling. The midnight blessing will reopen something you assumed was gone. It may come in a new form, a new path, a new relationship, a new idea, or a new direction, but its purpose will feel familiar. He says when this doorway opens, you will feel as though a part of you thought was lost suddenly returns. Your passion will rise again. Your creativity will breathe again. Your hope will stretch again. Something dormant inside you is preparing to wake up. Michael says a sign will come that confirms everything you have received. This sign will not be dramatic, but it will be unmistakable. It may come through an unexpected conversation, a sudden moment of clarity, a surprising shift in your emotions, or an opportunity that appears out of nowhere. When it comes, it will feel like a thread pulling your spirit upward. You will know instantly that this sign is not coincidence. It is confirmation. It is alignment. It is heaven whispering, "This is the moment." From there, things will accelerate quickly. What has been delayed will move. What has been stuck will break. What has been silent will speak. Midnight is the tipping point where your new chapter begins. Before you step into the next revelation, pause here for a moment. Feel what is stirring within you. That is not imagination, it is awakening. That is not emotion, it is alignment. Something is preparing to shift in your life in a way that will surprise even you. Stay close. Stay aware. Stay open. Type "I prepare for my midnight moment" in the comments if your spirit is receiving this. Blessing code 9925 has now been released. My steadfast one, as we move into this next unveiling, Archangel Michael steps forward with a firm but tender authority, for this portion of the message carries a weight meant only for the spiritually awake, the spiritually hungry, and the spiritually chosen. Michael says the intensity you may feel as you read this is not pressure, but preparation. Something in the unseen realm is shifting rapidly around you, and the midnight blessing drawing near has now entered the final stage of descent. You are no longer in the waiting season. You are in the alignment season. Heaven has been adjusting the circumstances of your life to prepare you for what is coming. And this moment marks a turning point where the blessing begins to take shape in the physical world. Midnight is not creeping toward you. It is surrounding you, enveloping you, repositioning you. Michael says, this is the hour where destiny bends toward them. He reveals a vision of you walking through a darkened forest. At first, the forest feels overwhelming, crowded with shadows and memories of things you survived but would rather forget. Yet ahead, a narrow path begins to form, soft, glowing, unmistakably illuminated. This path represents the direction the midnight blessing will bring into your life. You have wandered through seasons where you felt lost, unsure of what step to take next, unsure of who to trust, unsure of what path belonged to you. Michael says this confusion was not failure, it was recalibration. Heaven did not want you to settle for a path that was beneath your calling, so every path that was not meant for you collapsed. Every route that would have limited you closed. Every direction that dimmed your spirit was blocked. The midnight blessing will bring clarity that cuts through confusion like a beam of light carving through darkness. He wants you to understand that your life has been operating under divine protection, even during the seasons when you felt abandoned. You may have questioned why certain opportunities slipped away at the last moment, why certain people distanced themselves, why certain hopes dissolved just when they felt close. Michael says these losses were not rejections. They were redirections. The midnight blessing requires a clear path, and anything that could damage it, delay it, or distort it had to be removed. Heaven was clearing the runway long before you understood what was preparing to land. Another vision appears, a book with your name engraved in gold across the cover. The pages inside are glowing, but the first half of the book looks worn, bent, creased, touched by years of struggle. The second half, however, is bright, untouched, and unmarked. Michael says you are standing at the hinge of your life story, the sacred fold between your past and your future. The midnight blessing is the turning of the page. He says, tell them this. Their next chapter is not an extension of their pain. It is a response to it. Every unanswered prayer, every lonely night, every moment you questioned your worth has been gathered into a divine equation that now resolves in your favor. Heaven wastes nothing. Every tear has meaning. Every struggle has weight. Every battle has shaped who you have become. Michael reveals something very personal now. He says that in recent days, you may have felt a strange emotional sensitivity, a quickening of the heart, a heaviness behind the eyes, or a sensation of pressure in your chest. This is because your spirit is adjusting to the frequency of the blessing nearing your life. You are not anxious. You are awakening. You are not overwhelmed. You are expanding. The blessing approaching you requires an upgrade in your spiritual sensitivity, because once it arrives, discernment will become one of your greatest tools. Michael says the midnight blessing is not just provision. It is perspective. It will allow you to see situations, people, and opportunities with spiritual clarity rather than emotional attachment. You will discern intentions before they reach you. You will recognize danger before it approaches. You will identify blessings before they manifest. He gives yet another vision, a golden thread stretching from heaven to your heart. At first, the thread looks fragile, but as you watch, it grows thicker, stronger, more radiant. This thread symbolizes divine connection, the link between your spirit and the blessing carrying your name. For years, the thread felt thin because interference stood between you and your destiny. Doubt weakened it. Wounds thinned it. Disappointment stretched it. But tonight, the thread strengthens because the blessing is drawing closer. Michael says their connection to heaven is being restored, reinforced, and renewed. You will begin to feel spiritually aligned in ways you have never felt before. Ideas will flow. Wisdom will rise. Peace will return. Purpose will become clearer. He also mentions the sign that is still coming. It will appear soon, unexpectedly, but unmistakably. Something will shift in your atmosphere, a message, a moment, a sudden internal knowing. When it comes, it will be as though the air itself changes around you. Michael says, when they see the sign, they will understand that heaven has touched their timeline. Before we continue any further, pause here and take a breath. What you feel is real. What is coming is aligned. And what is unfolding is sacred. Now, as we reach the close of this section, I ask you, lift this message up by spreading it. Like, share, comment, and make sure you subscribe so these revelations can reach those who desperately need them. Your engagement becomes a ministry in itself. Type "I honor the midnight alignment" in the comments if this is resonating with your spirit. Blessing code 1180 is now released. The midnight blessing that is approaching you is also awakening others who are fighting through their darkest hour, and your support helps carry this divine light into their lives. When you stand with this mission, you become part of a holy ripple that touches souls who are crying out for answers at the edge of their breaking point. Heaven is releasing a fresh wave of anointing, and your seed becomes the oil that keeps this light burning. I speak this from my spirit. I am inviting you directly into this moment, because your act of support will echo far beyond what you can see. Just as the midnight blessing is opening doors for you, your giving opens doors for someone else who is praying for clarity. Whether through super thanks, channel membership, or the PayPal link in the description, your offering becomes a prophetic act of alignment. To every giver, I declare increase, divine covering, and supernatural acceleration. Step into this holy moment now. Mind during one, as we move into this deeper current of revelation, Archangel Michael draws even nearer, and his presence carries a clarity sharper than anything that has been spoken so far. He says this portion of the message is meant to expose what has been hidden behind the fabric of your struggles, the quiet battles you never told anyone about, the spiritual pressures that seem to arrive without cause, and the inner storms that rose even when your outer life appeared calm. He wants you to understand that the midnight blessing you are approaching is not coming casually. It is arriving as a direct response to years of warfare, years of resilience, years of quiet endurance, years of spiritual resistance that you survived even when you thought you were losing. Michael says this blessing was written into your destiny long ago, but there were forces determined to keep you from reaching the moment where you could receive it without breaking. Every obstacle, every strange delay, every season of heaviness had a purpose. It strengthened your spirit to withstand the weight of what is now descending. He reveals a vision of a thick fog surrounding you, and for years you walked through this fog feeling your way forward without certainty. You made decisions without clarity, trusted people who did not honor your heart, invested your time into places that did not value your presence, and carried loyalty into situations that did not reciprocate. Michael says this fog was not a punishment, it was a covering. Heaven did not want certain eyes to see who you truly were while you were still developing spiritually. Your identity, your gift, your anointing, your calling were being protected. The fog hid you from the wrong opportunities and shielded you from the wrong people while heaven sharpened the essence of your destiny. But tonight, the fog begins to lift. When the midnight blessing touches your life, clarity will return in a way that feels almost overwhelming. You will suddenly understand things that puzzled you for years. Conversations will make sense. Patterns will be exposed. Motives will be revealed. What was confusing will become simple. What was hidden will become visible. Michael says that one of the reasons your journey has felt so spiritually intense is because you carry an assignment that affects more than just your own life. You carry influence in the spiritual realm, even if you do not recognize it yet. Your prayers shift things. Your presence shifts things. Your endurance shifts things. Your spirit has weight in the unseen world, and because of this, your life has been under surveillance from darkness and under protection from heaven. Every time you felt pressure rise out of nowhere, it was because your spirit was approaching something significant. Every time you felt exhausted without explanation, it was because spiritual resistance tried to drain your strength before revelation reached you. But Michael says that tonight, this cycle loses its grit. The midnight blessing arrives not only to elevate you, but to disarm what has been working against you. He shows me another vision, a long rope tied around your waist, stretched behind you, held by shadowed figures representing old attachments, past wounds, emotional losses, and spiritual entanglements. These figures pull at you each time you try to move forward. Sometimes the pull was subtle, just enough to slow your progress. Other times, it was forceful, pulling you back into old emotions or old habits. But as midnight draws near, Michael steps behind you with a flaming sword. He cuts the rope in a single motion. The shadowed figures stagger backward and dissolve into nothing. This vision represents the spiritual severing that is taking place tonight. Attachments that once drained you will no longer have access to your spirit. Emotional patterns that repeated for years will finally break. Cycles that seemed impossible to escape will release you. He says, tell them this. They are stepping into freedom they have prayed for but never fully believed they could experience. He also reveals that the midnight blessing carries with it a specific elevation. Not elevation in status as the world sees it, but elevation in spiritual positioning. You are being lifted into a new vantage point, a higher spiritual awareness, a stronger internal authority. Your discernment will sharpen. Your intuition will strengthen. Your sense of direction will become clearer. You will no longer move blindly. You will move with confidence. Decisions that once tormented you will be easy. Choices that once confused you will become obvious. Paths that once frightened you will become inviting. This is because the blessing comes packaged with wisdom. Michael says, wisdom is one of the greatest manifestations of divine favor. He reveals another image, a compass glowing in your hands. This compass represents divine guidance that will begin to operate in your life. You will feel nudges, impulses, sudden internal knowing, and powerful clarity that seem to appear from nowhere. This is the blessing whispering to you. This is heaven directing you step by step. Michael says what is coming is not random. It is divinely orchestrated. Every decision you make under this new blessing will align you with opportunities you once thought were out of reach. The sign still approaches. It is closer than ever. It may appear in a moment of stillness or in an unexpected conversation. It may come through a sudden shift in emotion or through a quiet confirmation in your spirit. But when the sign appears, you will know instantly that heaven has touched your timeline. Before moving forward, pause here and breathe. Feel the shift. Something is happening around you even now. You are not imagining this. You are aligning with destiny. Type "I am ready" for the lifting in the comments if this is resonating with you. Blessing code 3372 has now been released. My rising one, as we move into this next powerful unfolding, Archangel Michael stands beside you with a presence that feels like a shield and a whisper at the same time. He says this portion of the message must be spoken with precision, because it concerns the inner workings of the midnight blessing as it prepares to intersect with your reality. You are no longer standing near the threshold. You are standing on it. Every shift you have been feeling, those sudden waves of emotion, the unexpected stillness, the heightened awareness, the quiet inner urgency, has been signaling that the spiritual atmosphere around you is tightening with purpose. Michael says your spirit has entered a sacred transition. What once felt distant is drawing near. What once felt uncertain is becoming defined. What once felt delayed is gathering momentum. Midnight is not simply an hour. It is a spiritual doorway, and that doorway has begun to open. He reveals a vision of a vast sky filled with dark clouds that have hovered above you for years. These clouds represent seasons of stagnation, emotional heaviness, confusion, and invisible battles. But tonight, a fissure tears through the clouds. Light pours through, illuminating not only the sky but your path as well. This vision is not merely symbolic. It reflects the shift happening in your spirit. What once hovered over your life is losing its hold. What once controlled your emotions is dissolving. What once clouded your judgment is clearing. Michael says the midnight blessing is breaking out the spiritual storm that followed you across seasons. This is why your inner world has felt different lately. Something has been loosening, something has been lifting, something has been preparing to release. He says the blessing approaching you is not meant to merely fix the problems of your current season. It is meant to rewrite the trajectory of your future seasons. This blessing carries a ripple effect. It touches your relationships, your emotional stability, your clarity, your purpose, your ability to dream again, your confidence, your opportunities, and your spiritual strength. This blessing is structural. It repairs what life fractured. It closes wounds you carried silently. It restores the parts of you that were misplaced in trauma. It lifts the version of you that was buried under disappointment. Michael says, this blessing returns them to themselves. That is one of the greatest miracles heaven can perform. He shows me a vision of a large gate with 2 stone pillars. One pillar represents your past, everything you endured, overcame, and survived. The other pillar represents your potential, everything waiting for you, everything promised to you, everything heaven intends for you to carry. You have been standing between these pillars for far too long, unsure of how to move forward, feeling the weight of the past pulling you back while the promise of the future called to you. Michael places his hand on the gate, and it swings open with a sound like a deep exhale. He says the midnight blessing is the force that opens this gate. It closes the grip of your past and propels you into what belongs to you. He wants you to understand that your emotional experiences have been spiritual indicators. The sudden sadness that made no sense, the emotional distance from old connections, the discomfort in familiar places, the aching desire for change, the moments where your heart felt too heavy or too full. These were not random. These were signs of transition. Your spirit has been stepping out of an old chapter even before the blessing arrives. That uneasiness you felt was your inner world releasing what could not go with you. Some people noticed you pulling away. Some environments felt draining. Some routines felt empty. This was because your spirit could sense the elevation before your mind could understand it. Michael says, tell them they were not withdrawing, they were rising. Another vision appears, a crown placed upon a velvet cushion. The crown is beautiful, but covered in dust. As Michael blows across it, the dust vanishes, revealing brilliance beneath. He says this crown represents identity you forgot you possess. Life may have convinced you that you were ordinary, unseen, or unworthy. Certain relationships may have made you shrink. Certain disappointments may have made you doubt yourself. Certain wounds may have made you silent. But the midnight blessing will restore your internal royalty. You will remember who you are. You will rise into confidence that does not come from ego, but from spiritual truth. You will walk with a steadiness that cannot be shaken, because it comes from alignment, not emotion. Michael says the reason your journey has felt painful at times is because heaven was shaping you into someone capable of carrying influence, wisdom, and depth. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to be hidden forever. You were never meant to shrink in the presence of others. The midnight blessing is not merely a moment of favor. It is a moment of unveiling. Your purpose will begin to reveal itself. Your voice will strengthen. Your intuition will sharpen. Your spirit will expand. You will begin to notice your presence shifts rooms differently. You will sense your atmosphere carry different weight. This is not pride. It is spiritual authority beginning to awaken. Michael also says the sign is drawing closer. It may appear quietly or suddenly. It may be a word, an opportunity, a message, a shift, a release of heaviness, or a moment of clarity so sharp it feels like revelation cutting through fog. When the sign appears, the blessing follows. He says you will feel it spiritually before you see it physically. A sudden inner warmth, peace, or certainty you cannot explain. Before we move forward, pause and breathe. Feel the expansion happening inside you. Feel the sense of expectancy rising. This moment is sacred. You are aligning with heaven in real time. Type I embrace the open gate in the comments if this resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 4408 has been released now. By advancing one, as we step into this next wave of revelation, Archangel Michael stands with an intensity that signals just how close you are to the culmination of this midnight blessing. He says this portion must reach you with precision, because it explains why your spirit has been feeling such deep internal motion, almost like the shifting of spiritual tectonic plates. You may not have had the words for it, but you have felt something stirring, rising, building in the unseen. that sensation is not anxiety and not imagination. It is spiritual alignment. The blessing that has hovered above your life for so long is descending through layers of resistance, and tonight, it is pressing into the final threshold before manifestation. Midnight is drawing closer like a drumbeat, and your spirit has already heard the rhythm even before your mind could interpret it. Michael reveals a vision of a massive clock tower in the heavenly realm. The gears inside it, ancient and golden, begin to turn with a slowness that feels reverent. At first, the hands move almost imperceptibly, but then they accelerate. He says the turning of these gears represents divine timing, timing that has been locked, protected, and preserved for you. For years, you cried out for breakthrough, but heaven did not release it early. Not because you were unworthy, but because the spiritual gears had not yet turned. The blessing required the right moment, the right spiritual climate, the right version of you. And now, Michael says, the gears have aligned. Timing is no longer preparing. Timing is releasing. He wants you to understand that the blessing approaching you is not simply something new entering your life. It is something old being returned. Something that belonged to you long before you lost it. Something that was part of your original spiritual design. Perhaps it was confidence that life crushed. Perhaps it was joy that sorrow drained. Perhaps it was purpose you buried under obligations. Perhaps it was courage that disappointment silenced. Michael says this blessing carries restoration of identity. It will return pieces of you that you have not felt in years. Do not be surprised if you wake up one morning feeling strangely lighter, clearer, more energized, and more spiritually connected. That is not coincidence. That is restoration. He says, tell them this. The blessing is returning who they were always meant to be. He shows another vision, a staircase spiraling upward into a sky filled with light. Each step represents a season of your life. Some steps are cracked, some scarred, some stained with tears, but all of them lead upward. And near the top, one step glows brighter than the rest. This glowing step is tonight. It is the moment where everything you have endured, survived, and grown through converges into alignment. Your past, instead of weighing you down, becomes the very foundation that lifts you higher. The midnight blessing is the moment where your journey stops feeling like struggle and starts feeling like purpose. Michael reveals something else deeply significant. He says many of the emotions you felt recently that seemed random or inconvenient were not emotional reactions. They were spiritual signals. The sudden urge to be quiet. The unexplained heaviness followed by unexpected peace. The feeling that something was about to change. The increased sensitivity to people's moods or intentions. All of these were indications that your spirit was preparing for elevation. You are shifting out of survival mode and into assignment mode. Your inner world is adjusting to the weight of revelation, influence, and breakthrough. Another vision forms, a sealed envelope stamped with a symbol of heavenly authority. This envelope floats toward you, glowing with a light that seems almost alive. Michael says this envelope represents divine instruction that will be released into your life once the midnight blessing manifests. It may come as a sudden realization, a powerful dream, an inner knowing, or an unexpected shift in direction. You will not guess it. You will not doubt it. You will simply know it is heaven speaking. He says, the next steps will not require striving, they will require listening. He reveals a truth that may shake you. Much of the opposition you faced in previous seasons was not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous to darkness. Your purpose carries weight. Your presence disrupts spiritual stagnation. Your prayers break cycles. Your spirit influences environments. This is why you were attacked in moments that seemed out of nowhere. This is why your joy was targeted. This is why your clarity was clouded. The enemy fights potential long before it manifests. But Michael says the midnight blessing comes with spiritual reinforcement. You will not be as easily shaken. You will not be as easily depleted. You will not be as easily misled. What once intimidated you will lose its power. He says the sign you have been waiting for is almost at the door. It may appear in a moment of silence or in a wave of unexpected clarity. It may come through a simple message, a sudden opportunity, or a shift in atmosphere so powerful it brings tears without warning. The sign is the announcement. The blessing is the arrival. And the shift will be unmistakable. Before we move forward, pause. Your spirit is listening more than your mind right now. You can feel the nearness of what is coming. Something sacred is closing in around you like warm light. Type "I step into my final alignment" in the comments if your spirit is recognizing this moment. Blessing code 5516 has now been released. My crossing over 1. As we enter this final movement of the revelation, Archangel Michael stands before you with a presence so strong, so clear, so unmoving that the very atmosphere around your spirit begins to shift. He says this concluding portion is not merely an ending, it is a sealing, a completion, a spiritual signature upon everything that has been spoken over your life. You have walked through each layer, receiving instruction, alignment, activation, and understanding, and now you stand at the threshold of the midnight blessing itself. The nearness of it is almost tangible. You may feel your spirit stirring even now, as though something inside you is leaning forward, reaching, anticipating what comes next. Michael says this is because the blessing is no longer approaching. It is arriving. Heaven is stepping into the final moment of preparation before manifestation touches your earthly life. He reveals a vision so profound that it reaches into the deepest parts of your journey. You are standing in a vast, open field. The sky is divided into two halves, one side representing the battles you have survived, the tears you have shed, the nights you could not sleep, and the heaviness you carried when no one knew. The other side represents everything waiting for you: clarity, freedom, alignment, opportunity, restoration, elevation, purpose, and deep spiritual peace. Between these two skies stands a single golden line, stretching from one horizon to the other. You step toward this line, and as your foot touches it, the sky shifts. The old fades. The new expands. Michael says this golden line is midnight. The meeting point between everything you endured and everything you are about to walk into. A sacred hour. A divine hinge. A spiritual doorway that opens only for those chosen, prepared, and aligned. He says the reason your spirit has felt both heavy and expectant is because transition always carries spiritual weight. You were not just stepping out of a season. You were stepping out of a cycle. A pattern that affected your heart, your relationships, your decisions, your confidence, and even your sense of identity. You have been shedding what cannot follow you. Shedding emotional burdens you outgrew. Shedding spiritual entanglements that faded as your elevation increased. Shedding old fears that once felt like truth, but now feel foreign. Michael says they must understand this. They are not just receiving a blessing. They are becoming someone new under heaven's mantle. He reveals another vision, a large stone door carved with ancient markings. For years, this door remained close to you. You pushed on it through prayer, effort, growth, healing, and patience, yet it did not open. But now, the markings begin to glow one by one. The door vibrates with light. Slowly, it begins to crack open, and a warm wind rushes out, carrying peace, clarity, and power. This door represents the promise you thought was delayed, the dream you thought was dying, the purpose you thought was too far to reach. Michael says the midnight blessing is the force that opens what has been sealed. It unlocks what was withheld. It breaks open what once resisted you. When this door opens fully, you will step into a season that does not resemble the journey you walked to arrive here. He wants you to understand that much of what felt confusing or painful in the past was divine protection disguised as disappointment. The wrong people had to fall away because they would have mishandled your blessing. The wrong timing had to delay certain opportunities because your spirit was not ready to sustain them. The wrong environments had to reject you because they would have suffocated your growth. Your spirit was being preserved for this moment. Michael says they were not being overlooked, they were being reserved. Another vision forms, a flame burning inside a glass vessel. For years this flame flickered weakly, barely staying lit during storms, losses, and emotional winters. But now, as the midnight blessing draws near, the flame expands, growing taller, brighter, more powerful. The glass shatters, not as destruction, but as release. Your spirit is being freed from the containment of old identity. You will feel your confidence rise without effort. You will feel your voice strengthen. You will feel your intuition sharpen. You will feel your purpose bloom like something familiar yet brand new. Michael says this flame is your spiritual authority awakening. The sign you have been waiting for is now closer than breath. It may manifest quietly or powerfully, but it will carry the certainty of heaven. It may come through a message, a shift in energy, a surprising opportunity, an inner voice that grows loud, or a moment of peace so consuming it feels supernatural. When this sign arrives, you will know that the midnight blessing has crossed the threshold and entered your life. Before this revelation is sealed, pause. Feel what is rising inside you. This is your spirit recognizing the hour, recognizing the shift, recognizing the arrival. You are not imagining this. You are entering the moment heaven wrote into your destiny long before you understood your own identity. Now, before we close this sacred chapter, lift this message up. Like, share, comment, and make sure you subscribe so that this spiritual light reaches those who desperately need direction, hope, and clarity in their own midnight hour. Type "I step through my midnight door" in the comments if you are receiving this. Blessing code 9033 is now active. The midnight blessing that now hovers over your life is not meant for you alone. Heaven desires it to flow outward, touching hearts that are fighting their own unseen battles. When you support this mission, you become a carrier of divine light to souls standing at the edge of despair. The Spirit says, "What you release for my purpose, I release back into your life multiplied," and this word breathes with power tonight. I speak this directly. I invite you into this moment of sacred partnership, for your seed becomes a prophetic act that aligns you with the very blessing resting over your life. Just as heaven is opening a door for you, your giving opens doors for others who are desperate for God's voice. Whether through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, your gift becomes oil on this mission. To every giver, I declare divine favor, supernatural increase, and protection over your path. Move now with courage and faith.